Hey guys, BJ the Brave here, back with another Warpforge deck guide for you, and this time I'm bringing you some Erika from the new Adeptus Sororitas. I was just stalling on the last name there. It's Luminous, isn't it? Erika Luminous. Now, a lot of people have been keen to see some deck guides from Erika. We've seen a few from different creators around Morven, and I definitely think that Morven's been my most successful warlord so far with Sisters 2. But we are getting there with Erika, and I wanted to do a video to give you a little bit of a kind of like update really on where I am with Erika, show you two alternative deck builds and a little bit of gameplay, and you can definitely expect more to come. So yeah, let's dive into it. So what I've done is I've played a lot of Erika. I've tried a lot of different cards, lots of different builds, those that are more tailored towards control, those that are more aggro based, those that are more sort of mid-rangey. I've tried a whole range of things. The nice thing about Erika is it's fun to play. Her warlord power is fun. It's a very fair deck, I would say, in terms of power level. It's you know, definitely not anywhere near tier 1, but it's not, I don't think since the balance patch it's the worst deck anymore, which it was before the balance patch. So I've gone through a few different iterations. I want to show you two that have been the most successful for me. Now, the first one I want to show you was the Faithful Take 1, and the Faithful Take 1, I went 9-1 on ladder against human opponents. I was doing really well with it, and then I lost 2 games in a row. One against Mania's Calgar and one against Abaddon, and they were very tier 1 Calgar and Abaddon decks, right? They were very, they were very well tuned, and what I found is when I came up against those types of decks that this current build that I'm about to show you just couldn't quite keep up with those. So, but it went 9-1 prior to that, so that ended up with what 9-3. In the end. So I'm going to show you that deck, and then I'm going to show you a more recent version. So this was the version that I started out with. Now, obviously, Erika can give +1 health. That's better than heal, because you can go above your starting health. And that really helps not only keep her alive, but more often than not, keep the units alive that you want to trigger. So she definitely makes things like Crusader, even on turn 1, really good, having 4 health. Things like even like Preacher is much better in Erika, right? Because coming down with 4 health is much better than 2. And one of the things that I even ran since the balance patch in this deck was the Sister Repentia. Now, this is an interesting card because obviously it's coming down. It can have 5 health with Erika, and one of the things that I was left really pondering about this deck is like what 3 drops to play, because what I realized with Erika is you absolutely, I felt like early on I really needed the 3 drops. Whenever I kind of cut 3 drops, it just didn't have the same, and it's a conundrum I still haven't completely solved, to be honest. So I actually started with a Repentia. I even tried, and I think I'm going to show you a game in a bit where I actually switched out and played the Dominion. So that is the very neutral Dominion card that did just recently get a health buff. And again, with Erika, that becomes health 5. So you can also play the Death Cult Assassin, which I still think is pretty good because it has camouflage, so it stops things like point blank shot and stuff taking it out. So you really, if you're going to run this type of deck, then really choose which 3 drop works best for you. I played most of my games. When I say I went at that 11-3, 9-3 streak, I played most of the games with the Repentia. I did swap out the Dominion for a couple of the games, but most of them were with the Repentia. So as you can see, we've kind of got in this deck a very low. We've got a kind of really good early game in that we have like the Novitas can be played, for example, on turn 3 in conjunction with Prayer. And that's a really powerful turn because Novitas comes down at 3 health, so the enemy Warlord can't take it out. And now your Warlord is praying with a shield on, and so this helps you to generate that faith really early. Crusaders are just Crusaders are something that I've learned are just I think they're critical. I definitely undervalued this card. Because they're actually really good even when you haven't got the 3 faith, if you're playing that early, which generally tends to be when you don't have 3 faith, is like turn 1 and 2. And actually turn 1 and 2, if you play this card on those turns specifically, it's actually still pretty good, and it enables your Warlord often to generate faith because it's being defended from the enemy Warlord attacking it. So the Crusaders are in for me. Obviously Prayer you know, most of you guys will know, you can kind of turn one, just kind of pray and then put the shield on, and it's just super powerful way of getting. There's not much. It's hard for your opponent. Things like Imotekh can disrupt that play, but it's difficult for your opponent to disrupt. Now, Amalia is one of my favourite legendaries in the deck. I really love this card. I really value this card because this card can be played in so many different ways, just as a tempo 3-drop with really good stats, right up through to one of the best control cards in the game, where I've had it doing like 12 damage, you know. So it really does have a high ceiling, this card, and also quite a good solid floor as well. So it's a really cool card. I did run the simulacrum bearers in this version because I feel like you need to get on board. You need to present options to your opponent. Like, they can disrupt some of the stuff, but they can't disrupt everything. And having the 5 health made that again quite difficult for your opponent. 6 if you put the prayer on it from your warlord. So they've gone in there too. Cleansing Flames is just outright great, really good against stealth units and things like that as well. So we run 2 of those. I do run, in this version, I run the Hallowed Martyrs, and this one I was like, this is one of those cards. It's a good card. It's a really good card. But you're gonna see, like, I'm not sure like it's right in every single build, because so if you're trying to, for example, build the board, if your deck is really around building board, then sometimes taking that turn off to play this isn't great. But and you also get great value out of this. You get much better value out of this in your you know, in your penitence decks than you do here. But I did run it in here. Obviously the Seraphins, big winners from the buff, gaining flank now all of a sudden, and it's not too difficult to get that 3 faith as well, to even get the +1 bonus to health and range attack. Astred's just one of the best cards in the game, certainly in this faction. Divine Intervention, often just a pretty decent, slightly more reliable, no mucking about, because, you know, you always want, when you play this for a single kill, you always want to kill the most powerful unit, which tends to be the one with the highest attack. So it's a very good and well statted card, I think. And obviously, if you get the 8 mana, the Destroying All Troops is well, it's a win con. It's very powerful. It should be in most decks, to be honest. Dominion Superior is a card that I've come to really love. Very low faith requirement, and it's just old reliable. It feels like I don't want to say it's the card effects of the faction. It's almost becoming a bit of a meme, but I mean it's just that kind of like real mid-game solid unit, and it's often won me a lot of games as well. It's funny how you often combine with the hero power. You think about it, that's 5 reach that you've got to face, so that's something to consider too. I did run the Celestian Sacrosanct in this deck, and I found it really good actually. I think the 6 drops generally are very good in this faction. I found this card to be super helpful and enabled you to go a bit later in the game. So I really like the Celestial, and you know, I would say that it is interchangeable, but there were many games where I was so happy to see this. Speaking of which, the Dogmata is a card that often when you build the deck, you don't include this because you just don't have room for it. But every time I play it, it always feels good. Like, it almost never feels bad having this in my hand. Like, so I'm still, jury's out on this card. I still think this is a good card. The biggest problem this card has is that it's competing with a lot of other good 6 drops. So I got 1 in here. Now, Shrine World is something that I added late because what I used to do, I used to run double 1-drop for card draw. And what I was finding is that when you have that card early, you don't want to play it because you really want to be getting it once you've obviously got 3 faith down on the board. So often it was just a dead card in my hand early game when I needed something else. So what I ended, and the other thing I found is that I did have some games where the game would go quite late. Sorry, I'm just gonna have a quick drink of water. Ah, that's better. I did have some games where the games would go really late, and I just ran out of resources, and I was kind of really praying for overtime to deliver me the cards I needed. And so I figured that actually running one of Shrine World can be really good in that situation, because you can almost use all your resources and play it as your last card, and then it just regenerates, and it also then brings up your faith level, so that cards like Amelia or Divine Intervention can really flip the game for you late game. So I quite liked it actually. It worked quite well, and it's definitely one of the better ways that I found using Shrine World. If you are struggling with those things I just mentioned, in particular, getting everything in the deck that you want, it is a different way of playing for card draw. Zephyrins are just fantastic. I feel like they're obviously not veteran Stormboy level, but they are good enough, and they're very reliable. And I feel like it's really difficult to drop these, to be honest. I feel like you in a competitive deck, you just need to have them. And I also run a single mortifier, because even though this isn't it's not a penitent deck, I still found that having this at the top end was really powerful. There are things you can do in this deck still as well, like Erika's ability pings it twice, or the Dominion Superior can ping it twice as well. So it's pretty good. So this is the kind of deck that I started out with. And what I'm going to do is, when I get into the gameplay, the first game I'm going to show you is a game that ran with this deck. But I want to take you on now to how like the deck sort of evolved and kind of like what I'm playing at the minute, like literally what I'm playing today on ladder, because I tried loads of different stuff. I was playing that deck at about 2.8k. This is early season, right? So I was like rank 35, I think, on ladder, and then I switched and I tried all sorts of different things, not just Erika, different stuff. Lost loads of points and got the top 5, and then I started again with back with Erika with a different build, and I came up with this one. Now this build is what I'm currently running, and I'm not there's a lot of similarities between the decks, but you do see that we do run the double Devout Warriors in this version. So we've still got kind of like pretty much the same early game with Preacher Prayer Crusader, PPC. I might start calling that for your 6/2 drops, PPC. And then I run Amalia again. And now, here's the interesting one, is that I really was baffled, as I said, about the 3 drops. And I went round and round the houses. And I didn't like the Celestian at first, because I was like, oh man, it just gets so done in by Chaos Flankers and by the Necron Destroyer Flanker, the 4-drop and stuff, and I really just didn't like it. But in the end, having tried like a load of 3-drops, I actually do think that its net benefit is probably the best option. Like, it's pretty scary if it does survive. It's an Erika deck, so we can put this up to 5 health. And even if it survives with 1 health, and then you pray and you've got a Vanguard with shield, that is very powerful. And combined with the fact that, I don't know if I've said this, I said it on the podcast. If you've not seen the recent version of Forgecast, go and check that out. That's our podcast with me and Ecclesiarch, and I talked on there about how I think Vanguard is a bit of a premium in Sisters. Like, it's worth a little bit more than like other factions. And why? Well, because our warlords are looking to pray and not be disrupted, and so Vanguard just has a little bit more value in this faction, and I think that's what just tips it for me for playing Celestian. And especially if you do play it on turn 3, it's very, very powerful. But there's also some nice things you can do in the late game with it too. Like, some of the other 3-drops just aren't very good in the late game, whereas Celestian you can kind of drop, for example, you could drop Aestred on turn 8, you could turn 7 E8, you could drop Aestred and this, and it's like, oh damn, right, now I'm not going to get to Aestred and disrupt the praying warlord and kill a 5 health Celestian, right? So that's why she is in. Now, they finally fixed the bug, Rite of Restoration. In the previous version I showed you that we had this bug, and I wasn't playing this card, but I think now that the bug is sorted, that this card is very good. I mean, generally I want to be targeting usually one of the flankers, so that could be anything like Seraphim or Zephyrim. Also, I think targeting Aestrid is fantastic with it, and then of course anything bigger than that, like the Mortifier, Saint Celestine, the Paragon Warsuit, which we're going to come on to, the Sterns. These are just awesome value to be playing for simply 3 energy. So this card definitely is worth it in this deck. Now, the Cleansing Flames are still in there. There are times, I have to be honest, like, again, where I find myself with, like, double Cleansing Flames in hand, and I don't actually really want to use it. So as great as this card is, you kind of have to be careful. Again, the deck building and getting the balance right is not easy, and, you know, there have been occasionally where I think maybe having one of these, but overall, like, the power level is very, very good with that. Now, I have gone in this deck for a single Relic of St. Catherine, and I think that's because I was finding that I was kind of either ending up on like 12 faith, which was just pointless because I didn't have payoff for that. And I just was struggling to squeeze in the second relic. And I kind of don't want to be giving up tempo too much in this build. You could drop a Retribute and put the second one in if you really want, but right now I'm going with 1 relic and 2 Retributors, but if you want to do it the other way around, I could understand that as well, especially because we do run the Paragon Warsuit, which benefits from playing for faith. So I could definitely understand that for sure. As I say, I do run the Retributors. I actually think that the Retribute is really good. The biggest problem with this card is that there are turns where you need to play a proactive turn 4. And things like the Missionary or the Healer would be better, but you know, ultimately, I do like what this gives me. For only 2 energy, giving me that 3 damage guaranteed to a troop really helps me to keep up with the board and to trade with our opponent. It also messes up stealth units like G-Stealer, so I do like the Retribute. I've actually ended up with 2 in, but as I said, you could drop 1 and put 2 relics in. Seraphim is Seraphim, Aeldari the same, Divine the same, Superior the same. Now, the big thing here is we tried Stern, so we drop in you can try this deck with Dogmata. As I've said previously, the Dogmata card for me is absolutely brilliant. It's never felt bad, but I really wanted to test this card because they kind of messed up when they did the patch, and it didn't have camouflage, so it wasn't a consideration. Now they brought the camouflage back, it's much, much better. And there are certain matchups where, like, honestly, guys, like, this is a very, very powerful ability now. When you think about Erika's Warlord ability, where she's doing 3 damage, you can combine that with Stern's ability, and that means you can be doing 6 damage without having to swing and attack with anything, and guaranteed 5 damage, right? And so it still enables you to control the board really well, and she has really good synergy with Erika's Warlord talent, which you want to be using once you've got that 3 energy. So Stern, I'm still in testing phase with her, but I'm really happy with her at the minute. And another great way then of generating faith. So we do run the Seraphim, we do keep the Mortar same. I have gone for Saint Celestine. One of the main reasons is we do run Rite of Restoration. Now, one of the things you can also do is if you wanted to drop 1 Retributors, you could play the you could play the what's the 4-drop that gives flank to everything. The Dialogus. This is a card that I've had, I think is really good. But it can fall behind a little bit on the trade wars sometimes around that kind of turns 4 and 5. So I don't know. I kind of like one of them. And what you can do, if we come back to the deck, what you can do is you can swap 1 Retributor for one of those if you like, and that can be pretty nice, you know, because the Dialogus can have some really good synergy with Saint Celestine, basically giving you an invulnerable Vanguard, which, if you've not seen that combo, and I've pulled that off several times, it is insanely powerful. So, you know, an invulnerable Vanguard is just yeah, if you've not done that, go ahead and try it. Really powerful, and again, her being able to come back to life with the Rite of Restoration is pretty cool too. If you don't like Celestine, though, I know some people are really going off her, then you could put in a second Mortifier or a second Paragon. Now, the Warsuit is kind of like one of the latest things that I'm testing, and I actually am starting to really respect this, because there are a lot of cards, there are a lot of games where by the late game you have all this faith and you don't really have anything to pay off. I try the Exorcist, it's just not good enough, that card at the minute, guys. It's too all or nothing. Like, they need to make some amendments to that card. We've put loads of suggestions forward. Really want to see it having a scaling faith ability with the AoE that it does, whereas just having an 8 faith requirement is too much. So I put this in instead, because what this gives us as well is a different utility to the faith building units in the deck. So we can drop this, and then things like Stern, who can still generate Faith, or playing a relic afterwards, or even just praying with Erika, which we still want to do, right? The thing with Erika is she gives health, so even though we've got our Faith level, we still want to give health. So what it's doing is just giving an extra bonus to Erika. If you think about it, Erika praying and giving +1 health to an armored up vanguarded warsuit, which then triggers 4 damage, is better than her just attacking. So you know, actually just really starting to come round to the idea of the Paragon. And of course, I feel like 6 is a much more reasonable payoff. And getting Vanguard with 8 health and a shield is really quite powerful. So I'm quite liking this setup. So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump into some games. I'm going to show you one game that I did with the first deck, and then I'm going to show you a series of games with the second deck. So I really want to show you a game with the first deck that I did, and this game is against Tau. Now we decided we did get the sister, which is good. We got the legendary card, so I think we kept that, and we also kept the Dialogus because it's quite a good card to play on tempo with the refined stats. So let's look through it. So he obviously drops a marker drone, and we decide to deal with the drone. So rather than pray, we actually decide to deal with the drone because the problem against this guy is he's really good at just putting out tempo, and we just can't afford at the minute to fall behind. And actually praying would do nothing because we'd just get hit and we'd lose it anyway. Now we decide to give him something to think about because we've got a really beefy redrop. So we drop the bearer, and he drops in response the Pathfinder to marker like that. Obviously, a great way of getting rid of high health units. So this looks like a very nice target, obviously, for our cleansing flames. We go ahead and drop the flames, burn those 3 units, and we just pray up with our 2 units and say, okay, maybe you can disrupt 1. Can you get both of them though? Well, it depends whether he has Vespid. He doesn't, so he drops the Devilfish. Now, Devilfish is a great card. It's also a bit tough to get rid of, but this is where obviously we now play our reveal what defense card we played, and that gives us the buff to the Seraphim. So with the buff, that means that we are able to clear this, providing we attack, obviously, with Erika, which we're going to do, because we need to get rid of Devilfish. Too powerful to leave on the board. And now he drops this. So you've seen this game, like, we're really under the pressure, for sure, in terms of the tempo that he's playing, right? He's, like, keeping up with tempo a lot. Now, Zephyrin actually trades really nicely into this card. That Enforcer did receive a nerf, and it went down from 5 to 4 melee attack, and that actually makes a huge difference in this interaction, so that's something to be conscious of. Zephyrin's also good against the Devilfish. Not that he's probably going to let this survive. No, he doesn't. But our praying Erika does manage to get off, so now we're up to 4 faith. So we're going to land Cleansing Flames, and that gets rid of, obviously, Vanguard for us. And then the good thing, once we're up to 3 faith, what I love about this Warlord power that Erika has is that even against armor, it's double ping, right? So double ping plus her attack does get rid of it. Now, dynamic offensive, we've got to be mindful now that he's going to have flankers, and he just drops the drone and then the old sniper drone. Now it's turn 8 here. I'm not sure about this player, to be honest. I'm not really sure about this player, but I mean, I think we're trying to give him targets, right? Like, and obviously we use the heal on this, but the problem is obviously he could potentially use this to kill that easily. But I think with this on the board, I was thinking there's no way he can afford to do that. So this might survive and help generate even more faith. So I don't know. I'm not sure if that was the correct play there, but that's what we went with. Another good use of Pathfinder, and also well played there on the AoE. I think that was a good time, and that's going to enable him to kind of clear the board. His health is getting quite low, but he is still ahead on tempo. I mean, it's very difficult keeping up with the tempo of this deck. So we play the because he's got quite a wide board but quite low health stuff. Decided to play that, but I made a mistake there because I traded with the thing that meant I didn't damage myself, and I should have taken the point of damage in order to trigger the 3 damage to his units. So that was a bit of a misplay and not a good use of Hallowed Martyrs at all. So definitely a big misplay actually, and we get punished a little bit here. He drops the Enforcer and really putting the pressure on us now with the stealth suit. Oh, so that was one of the flankers that he got from the dynamic offensive that he played earlier. Obviously, our health is now getting lower, right? He's kind of catching up, and he's still ahead on board. The problem is every time he hits us, he does take the pendant, and that's why that card is really good. I don't know whether that should be in my new version or not. Really, it's definitely something that I wouldn't be against you putting back in, to be honest, but it's just sometimes you can end up with too many sort of stratagems and you need to be playing bodies. But you can see it doing work here. Pretty nice against Tau, to be honest. Low health, go wide stuff. Really suffer against Hallowed Martyrs. I think the Hallowed Martyrs, like, you know, with Erika, probably, I kind of often want to be doing using the heal ability, and that's another reason for not using it. I kind of feel like you want to be on the offense, but I don't know. The jury is still out for me on that. So we're doing pretty well on like cards here. Like we're pretty ahead in terms of resources, which is always the thing with this guy, right? If you don't run the Persian Empire in particular, because he's so tempo heavy that he's going to run out of cards. Oh, here comes the dynamic offensive though. He runs that, doesn't he, instead? You have to be mindful of flankers potentially. Don't love this play from him because the Dogmata is just so good at dealing with this card. And so if he doesn't plan to take the Dogmata out, I don't love that play unless he's purely doing it as a distraction. He's worried that we might have lethal. We go ahead and trade, obviously, with the Dogmata. As you can see, this is a game where I think I said in the description that the 3 drops are tinkered with, and this was a game where we tried the Dominion instead of the Sister Repentia. I still don't know which of the 2 is better. Probably would pick the... I don't actually know. I think they're kind of quite even. They do slightly different things. Repentia's better against Chaos though, for sure. And as I say, I actually decided to go with Celestian in my newer version. So he does manage to get rid of the Dogmata, so this was the other unit that got flanked from the homing beacon. So we're kind of, yeah, kind of up against it a little bit here. It's real close, but again, you see that Hallowed Martyrs like really coming into play against the Tau. And now we draw with the Shrine, and here we see we got 3 units. That gives us +3 faith, which puts us up to 8 faith, and into Amalia that really does just really ramp up her ability, right? Instead of coming on and doing 5 damage, she's coming on and doing 8 damage, so immediate value from that nice little combination you got to see there from the Shrine, drawing 3 bodies, and particularly into the Amalia ability. And that basically allows us to just kind of like we don't even need the so we actually protect the body here and say you've got to get rid of that now, otherwise it's lethal. We're actually sitting on the Dominion anyway, so we've kind of got lethal. He's going to do all this stuff just to clear the board, make him use the pulsing slot, so you can see that would have helped him get lethal as well. So it did get pretty close in the end, but he had all this removal, managed to clear the board. Well done, but what he doesn't know is that on top of our Warlord ability, he does block us hitting, so that's well played by him. But what he doesn't know is on top of the Warlord ability, we've also got the Dominion Superior, which I think is something that, combined with the hero power, gives this deck a fair bit of reach as well. So there you go, guys. So there you go, guys. That was a game with the original deck. So now we're getting into the new deck with the Sterns in there, now that the Camouflage got added and we updated and put the Celestians in. So we're going up against Spax Marine, and it's the Spax Marine, and he's playing the Imotekh. control. This is a really fun game. There's some crazy stuff happening in this game. So yeah, we're going to obviously keep this 3 and 4 curve here. Draw on the pendants, which we're not too keen to see early on. So we're basically just going to pray, hit him for damage. Nothing too much going on turn 1. He does his usual disrupt the prey, ping us, gain his heal. We're going to drop the Celestian on E3. And obviously we're going to give it the health boost as well, which is 5. Now, how does he deal with this? Well, obviously he could use his flanker, although his flanker would die to this because it only has 3 health. So actually it's not bad against Imotekh there, but he did have the extermination protocol, so he threw everything in and he cleared it. But look, guys, we did get the one health, and that's the point of that's what the flank gives you over everything else as well. So we still benefited somewhat there. And obviously we go back into prayer mode and we just play the relics, and now we're up to 5 anyway. Now he plays hyperlogical strategist. Now take note of that, guys, right? Just take note of that hyperlogical strategist, and just want you to make a little mental note of what could he possibly have drawn from that. Let's see how that materializes later in the game. So we just go with the tempo Astrid here. Put a bit of pressure on the board. And he responds with the Lich Guard. So we've got 6 energy. And so I'm weighing up here, do we go with the flanker, or do we... There were several different ways we could have done that. And I decided that we would go with the flanker, and... did we clear? We didn't clear, right. And this is one of the things I was trying to weigh up, is like whether to pray or not with the unit. So he uses the curse, very powerful in Imotekh control right now, and I think super important. And that enables him to clear the board. This guy dies, but I'm sure we'll see him again later. Oh, no, he had the 0. He had the Resurrection Vault. So that was the defense card that he took. So that was a very, very good turn for him. Look how much he swung that board. Really powerful. And we got punished for not getting rid of the Remnant. It is always a question in this kind of matchup, is how the payoff and the guessing between when to clear Remnants and when to pray and put that pressure on back on him. This time we do clear it. So he's basically using the recon. He's probably going to find the Lich Guard again. And he's going to drop the 3rd Lich Guard of the game. Well, it's the 2nd, but you know what I mean. He stood back up once. Okay. Interesting use of the extermination protocol there. I'm not quite sure about that. I suppose it enables him to clear this turn if we don't heal with his Warlord and the ping. Maybe that's his thinking. Now I think what we're looking at doing here is... No, we're not. Yeah, super awkward turn. If you notice that we have 4 energy that we didn't use there, and I just like... I needed to use the Warlord ability, so I couldn't do that and play the Mortifying. That is the problem when you've got 2 very big units in hand. Now then, I've noticed more people are starting to play this card. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. It's obviously good in a greedier version of control. And I think that's what Spackmarine is going for. So we spend all this time trying to get rid of it. It also has Remnant, don't forget. So we do obviously clear the Remnant, so we just can't afford for that thing to just stand back up. And then down comes Oberon. So the greed, the pressure, the constant kind of like big bombs that are starting to drop now is really something. So what we do here is we actually go for gain 1 point, and that's because I calculated the Amalia. So another interaction there that you want to be conscious of. What that enabled me to do is clear Oberon with the Warlord power, which obviously will do 2 damage. If we hadn't got that extra 1, Amalia would have left us with 1, and then we'd have needed to attack with something, and I wanted to keep this guy alive. Obviously I'm not attacking those stats with Erika, so that was a kind of interesting turn for you to kind of go back and look at again. Now, here comes the Tomb World, guys. And you've already seen the bombs that have been dropped in this. You look at this for Tomb World, right? We got some giants on show here, guys. We got some absolute giants on show. So we're going to draw, and what I'm looking for is my hard removal here. And we've got a good chance of doing it because we not only do we draw there, but we've also got this to draw as well. And so we're going to draw again. And there it is. There it is. Can I get a boom in chat? Look at that, boys. Off you go. There goes your Tomb World and your super powerful big bods. So we're really showing like this guy's abilities and lots of different ways in which that can be used in this game. And it is, you know, you've really got to think about what the sort of what the odds are and what you can play into. I think I even checked my card full before I made that play. And so now we're suddenly like laughing and we think, okay, well we've got the game, right? We've got the game here now. Draw some cards. What's he got? Another Tomb World! Oh, do you remember the hyperbolical strategist, or whatever the hell that card's called? Hyperlogical. Diabolical strategist is what I want to call it after that. And yeah, down he comes for his second Tomb World of the game. And I made a massive mistake here. Yeah, so notice what I just did. I just pinged the wrong card. So somewhat embarrassing. That was obviously meant to ping this guy. And I actually pinged the wrong card completely. So a major kind of misplay there. We do heal though and pray, so you got to see the Paragon... not heal. We did pray, so you got to see the Paragon go off. Rite of Restoration has some juicy stuff now. He does get rid of the Vanguard. Another Hyperlogical. And he goes with the heal. And the Reanimate. I mean, he's doing absolutely everything he can. Thing is, what we've now got, obviously, is the ability to use this. Oh, we didn't even need it. So we could have obviously healed the Paragon and then finished it that way with prayer. Or we could just ping because we also had this guy. And again, I think this is a really good combo with our Warlord power for doing damage late game and kind of clearing the board. Okay, so next up we've got Manius Calgar. Really like that opening hand. Sometimes I throw away Amalia, you know, in certain matchups, but against Calgar, where there's the threat of it being a real fast tempo deck, I would keep Amalia. So I really like that opening hand. No big kind of bombs, nothing kind of just looting our hand, blocking up our hand. So this is all useful stuff. So with this, I decided to actually go with the Preacher. Obviously, I had a choice of the Crusader. But I figured, like, if he uses his early game removal, at least he's taking some damage back. Now, we're also up against the Raging Storm. This is a real problem. It's more of a problem for Junith than it is for Erika, but it's still a real problem, and it's a card that it's somewhat ruining the game, and it's ruining playing in this faction, to be honest, at the minute. I really do want to see that card get changed. So, but anyway, we're going to keep trying, and of course, Erika can make up for it somewhat by healing, meaning that even though the Raging Storm put the Crusader down to 2 health, sorry, making it an easy trade for Calgar, she gets round that with the +1. He does pay the point blank shot, but again, he's not actually hitting Erika in order to do that. So we should get, and we do get, the point. And that's really important because now we reveal our Sacred Altar, and that gives us the 2 faith needed for Retributor. And that means we've got a nice, easy trade with the Firstborn. And we're just going to heal. So he now drops the Stern Guard. What does it hit? Oh, he's got to draw first. It's Codex. Yep, he gets what he wants, and he's even going to go for the double Codex. Does he kill the unit off? Oh, he doesn't even need to. He's got the point blank shot. Nice. So he gets to kill the Retributor, and he gets to put the damage on. So good pressure there from him. And now we're sort of sitting here on turn 5 and we're going, how do we want to do this? Do we want to play the 3-drop and the hero power? Well, we decided to just go with this and take some damage, obviously. Erika, but he puts a bigger body down, threatens a bigger board for him to have to deal with. Okay, so the blind definitely wanted to hit this, and he got a bit unlucky on the 50-50. He hit Erika with the blind. And this gives us an opportunity to develop Stern, because we can trade this nicely now. And then we can just heal, right? Like, take this out of Calgar range. Yep. And now we're sitting with a pretty decent board, and suddenly this is looking okay against Calgar. Now, comes down with the stun, and obviously his -1 hurts him as well. That's something to think about when you automatically reach for this card against sisters. You'll hurt yourself as well. Now, because we attacked with Erika, that puts us nicely in range. We can develop Aeldari, and that means that when Stern prays, she's going to put not only camouflage on her, but she's also going to put a shield on her. And we got 1 pray as well. So that's an absolutely beautiful combination, guys. Like, superb use of these cards. And another thing I look for when I try to evaluate cards is where they fall on the mana curve. So, for example, Aeldari coming down on 5 and then her on 6. I know we did it the other way there. Is something to consider. Or her coming down on 6 and Aeldari coming down on 5 and then playing the Warlord power in combination with her ability to do 2 to 3 damage. That is probably the synergy you want to be aiming for. The combo you want to be aiming for, sorry. And now we're up to 4 fade. So when we drop a Crusader, look at this, guys. This is 2 energy, and we just got that. You know, and it's not just that. It's the fact that we can heal as well if we want to. With Erika, it's absolutely insane value for 2 energy. So Storm Raven's really nice there because he's just disrupted multiple prayers and he got rid of a shield. I mean, that is a superb value player for him. And it's really, to be honest, he absolutely needed that there. He would have been in a lot of trouble without the Storm Raven there. So he's going to use his second, what's it called? Second Tactical Insight to try and get back on board. But again, trusty old Zephyrin can come on and deal with this quite nicely. We kill one of those, and now we're going to try for this and see if we get the 3 rather than the 2. Unfortunately, we only get the 2, but that's okay. We can finish off with this. And what we should do is heal that back up so that Calgar can't take out the shield. Yeah. So what's he going to do to this? So he brings on Flanker. He's desperately trying to get rid of this thing. Attacks with Calgar, and he has another pulsar. So he's really trying to kind of fight to keep up on board now. And again, once this thing's dealing 3 damage, it's like the reason, it's one of the main reasons to play Erika. It's very, very powerful. And again, we went for the 50-50 on the 2 to 3, and again we lost it, and we only did 2. But what we're going to do is stick that prayer on her. So another good synergy with the prayer spell on Stern. Like I say, she does have good synergy with other cards in this deck. Whereas Dogmata's just like a solid card. And the shield, the Vanguard unit is has poorer stats, right? It can be cheated. And this Stern sort of is like a soft Vanguard anyway, because people need to get rid of her, and they can't do it with spells. So I'm actually really liking Stern. Obviously, she just gets to attack there, and we finish off with hero power. We're in a little bit of showing off there. But again, as I always say, it's not BM, because that was a +5 cost spell. and sometimes you have missions that require you to play an amount of those. And also, I'm not sure whether one of the achievements is about playing so many spells. I think it is. So you should always, when you've got lethal, you should always think about that. Like, you should always think about like the achievements and the missions. Okay, next up we got Tigurius. For starters. So we actually put the Thunderstorm on as our offense here because we're kind of happy to kind of go steadier. I think we're happier to kind of get the energy resource if he wants to try and beat us down. Really nice opening here, and he decides to just disrupt the prayer rather than try to tackle this because he can't kill it anyway. And so the way we now punish that particular play. Oh, that is strange that he went for smite. You would have thought he might have done that the other way. So we're going to punish that by actually putting down a blocker now. And obviously you can go for the ramp straight away on the 5th, but I actually think that I look at this and I think we've got a good chance here of keeping this alive again. There's an argument that you could have even healed this because you can obviously try to play this with smite. Look, he's really, really keen to disrupt the prayer. But what you've got to do is make it that you punish him either way in this situation. So, okay, you disrupt the prayer, but now what you've done is you've given us tempo. So what we're going to do here is just basically go, okay, well, because we got so far ahead, it doesn't actually harm us now to just play the relic. Now we've got the prayer anyway, and you've still got to catch up on the board. And so now our Warlord talent is online, doing 3 damage. We can obviously start to really hurt this Honor Guard. We're not even bothered about trading in with this guy now, the weakened Crusader, because we've got the big Crusader down. So we can just heal, it's not heal, we can add health to that. And he's just stuck in this loop. Good time in there to get the extra cards from the card draw. Always nice when you can kind of fit that conveniently into the curve. Yeah, and so just wanted to show you that last game because it really showed like how a good opening can kind of spiral and how you can evaluate those different options. I think one thing about this deck is you really have to think hard about your early game or what your opponent's going to play, and I kind of like that challenge. So in this version, I get rid of the Devout Warriors. I actually keep the Stern. I'm not sure whether it's correct to keep Stern or not, if I'm honest. But I decided to. It probably isn't correct there. But perhaps because it might even just be as simple as because I'm testing it, I just wanted to keep it in hand. So, I'm playing against Swarmlord, and we have got the prayer, so we've got a nice early game start there to protect from that damage coming in and get some faith. But he's got Gene Stealers, so it makes me think this might be a stealth build. I'm going to take this just out of reach and say, how do you want to deal with it? Well, you can deal with it by only playing a single one of those and put the Hive Commander on, and kaboom. However, this is where Seraphins are just so good now, because we've disguised the Sacred Altar. We're going to play that now. It gives us the 3 health. Not that we even need it, but that's what we're going to do, so we get a slightly bigger Seraphim. We didn't need the big Seraphim to clear, but we can obviously use that. It does really well into the Node Beast, and obviously Erika can polish off the Gene Stealer. Okay, so he plays another Gene Stealer, and he just buffs it, and hits us in the face. We're already down to 26 health. So, a good time to just play Astrid and just kind of say, alright, gonna kind of like heal. Now, I actually healed over here because I kind of figured that if he attacks with both of these, or if he buffs a Gene Stealer, he could take this out anyway. So that's why I actually decided to do what I did there. But he actually goes with his double Gargoyle play. Massive addition, by the way, to the Tyranids. The Tyranids, I'm telling you, the buffs to Ultramarines and Necrons overshadowed the buffs to Tyranids, but the buffs to Tyranids have made a massive difference. Like, That card in particular has really elevated the faction, so especially now Tau aren't played as much. Swarmlord is just very, very strong. So we have to attack here, which is a bit of a shame because we lose the shield. But obviously we can play, and I wasn't too sure about these two, but I decided that even though this does better against them, I decided to go with the expensive option because we had 4 energy to spend there. So that was really my thinking for playing her. Now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking we're probably not going to get a divine intervention like a big one in this game. Not anytime soon anyway, so I did ponder using it there. Draw some troops. Get the Seraphim and the Dominion. Now then, here's the problem, guys. When a Tyranid player gets this type of board state, not only do you suffer the Hardened Biology trio, which is in itself just an absolute nightmare to get rid of. Beautifully played by him there. Beautiful use of the combination of the Stealer and the Swarmlord ability to clear the board. Really like that. And look at that. He had one. I was looking at his thing and he had one energy left, and I was like, don't you dare have stealth as well. And I'm looking at this going, oh, if only I had 8th faith, right? But we don't have 8th faith. We still have to use it because we still got to get rid of the Gene Stealer to have a chance of even just being alive. And even that is a small chance. And then he plays the Adrenal Surge. So what's interesting there is we had Cleansing Flames, right? And it actually didn't help us. So, you know, when people say, like I have, that it's really good anti-stealth, I think you've just seen a Tyranid masterclass there on how to kind of play around that. Okay, so next up we have Erika Midrange. Now, in the mirror match, we're fighting for board. We're fighting for almost like racing for faith, etc. And so I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, prayer is fantastic in the mirror, right? It helps us with both of those things. The relic, I'm like, oh, I could lose the board, but it helps me obviously get in the faith race. And the Cleansing Flames, if I am losing the board, helps me come back in it. So I think I ended up keeping those 3. I did. To be honest, Zeph's not great in my opening hand, but let's see how this one plays out. So he, Bear 38, basically heals and pings, right? So we're looking at this and we're like, right, do we disrupt her faith, or do we build faith, or do we build board? How do we want to do it? And we decide that, yeah, we could disrupt, but actually then we're just back to even. Whereas, and actually we're behind because he's got +1 health. Whereas this play develops the board. We're now praying as well. So we're like, okay, you got your prayer point, you got your 1 point of faith, but we're on for 1-2. That doesn't disrupt us. So we now have 1, and we established board, which is gonna, we're ahead on board because it enables us to kind of trade here. So now we're on turn 3, and we decide to pray, which kind of like heals that unit. It means it can trade without actually dying. And then we're just going to use our Warlord power there. We could have obviously tried to use like prayer and this, but that actually kept us on board. And now he actually uses his power to ping us in the face because we're kind of getting ahead on faith, and then he attacks there. But that means he only has 2 energy left and he doesn't spend it. So we've disrupted his mana efficiency, right? So now we're on our turn 4. So we're going to basically heal. We can now use the prayer for 2, saying we're going to get more faith. Good luck blocking us when you don't have a board. Oh, and by the way, we're now up to 3. So we get to play Big Crusader. So we've achieved all those objectives, right? We're ahead on faith. We're ahead on board. We're not ahead on health, but it's irrelevant really at this point. Like, sacrificing 2 health for that board state is like, yes please. And he plays a 3-drop where, you see, this is why I'm so uncertain about this drop, because it is very easy still to cheat. If you haven't got board, which he didn't, like if we were playing that now, it'd be excellent, but obviously you have to have board when you're playing this card, so you have to have a very strong early curve. And we just basically trade in a way that means that we don't lose our shield, we develop our board further. He's on 1 faith, we're on 4. I think we just figure here, you know what? We got that Zeph in our opening hand, and rather than trying to do clever stuff, I think... Oh no, we didn't. We didn't. That's okay. We had the 5-drop on board, so we can cheat the trade there. See, we were talking about this versus the Stern. This is the problem with the 2, right? He's just... All he's doing is 2 damage back to us. And I'm so confident where we are on the board there that we just go ahead and ramp up on faith. And now you think about our Amalia, you think about our War Engine late game coming down with Vanguard, you think about, obviously, our, I was going to say Will of God, but Divine Intervention is it called? And he realises he's just too far behind on all resources, calls it a day. Alrighty, next up we have Calgar. So I think pretty good opening hand there if we get rid of Saint Celestine. 2, 3, 4, 5 on the curve. We are going second, and unfortunately we are facing the Raging Storm. So again, really hampered by this god-awful offense card. Sorry to keep complaining about it, but EG, if you're watching, please can you change that, because it's ruining the faction. And we'd all quite like to play Erika and Junith, and it's very difficult to play them with that, because it kind of just completely breaks the game. So we just heal and pray. I was being sarcastic there, guys. I'm not particularly salty about it. I know that sounded a bit salty, but it's just... I think everybody, and hopefully including EG, realise that this card is not good. So anyway, we are now up to 2 faith, which is very good for the likes of Retributor and Dominion Superior. That's our first milestone, really, when it comes to faith, is 2. And then the next one is 3, because that's obviously where our Retributors and our ability, our Erika's ability, comes into play. And there we go. So the heal there didn't mean that it survived, but it did mean that she got her prayer off, did Erika, and now we're up to 3. And obviously we've still got the thing for going up to 4. So we're well and truly online now. We're well and truly online. So we're just going to kind of like ping here for 3, which is a much bigger deal. And then we're just going to pop that prayer on us as well to say, you know what, not only will we have another 1, but probably 2, right? Because how are you going to get rid of, how are you going to disrupt me now? Well, here's one way you can do it. Here's one way you can do it. Got a bit too cocky there, BJ. Sternguard Sergeant said, take that with you. There goes your shield, and Calgar punches in the face. You know, not very nice. Not very big of you, Calgar. Anyway, that said, we are still on 5, and this is where I just love the Retributor, right? Like, you remember before where that I can imagine this turn we'd be like praying on that 50-50, because it could have hit Calgar and it would have done nothing. And actually hitting there, guaranteed. It's just I super value that type of rally effect. It's not technically a rally, but you know what I mean. Like that type of immediate impact is very important in Warpforge. It's a bit like the Chaos 6-drop, the Havoc, that comes on and does 4 damage. It's very, very powerful. So this was an awkward turn, right? Like. The last turn as well, so I remember thinking here, like, I'm just going to have to take 5 damage, because if I don't do that, if you'd looked at the board, there was no way of clearing it without developing the board. So that was a very, very painful turn, right? We took a lot of damage there. But he's not really developing the board. He's dealing with our board. Okay, he's somewhat developing it, but... you know, even like the Raging Storm, like hurting him there. And we decide to just like heal here and just make good use of Fury of the Righteous again. So we're going to hit him with Fury. 3 power Fury is just superb. This is awkward as well. Nice use of the scout, right? Because the camo means that you can't target it with cleansing flames in the middle and hurt all 3 units. That's pretty clever. And it really did have me thinking quite a bit. Now, there is a card available, and you know what it is. It's Aeldari. How do you feel about playing Aeldari for 3 energy, guys? Like, even with Raging Storm, how good is that? How good is that? And we developed this. Now, you might think, did we need to do that? Well, we could have played with a Fury, but then we couldn't play a unit. So by doing that, that actually gave us a better onboard presence. So we're able to develop tempo. And actually, having 5 range attack now available to us when he plays something like Tigurius is really, really blooming good, right? Because that's 9 health we've got to deal with. We actually play Amalia to kind of slap it down in half, and then we just use that to finish it. And the reason we do that is because that play enables us to play Stern. Now, if you did the calculations as I agonizingly did, I realized that there were other ways we could have done that to sort of save Amalia, but we wouldn't have been able to develop Stern. And I know that I want to get Stern down on board. Obviously, things like this, like Death from Above, he's sitting on. Okay, great, so you can't target Stern with that. Fortunately for him, he has another juicy target. I don't know if you say that's fortunate or not. So he kills Aeldari for the 2nd time this game. The newly... it's not a buff, is it? They just corrected the bug on the right restoration, sort of really coming into play there. Now, guys, this is where we start to have fun, right? Because we can drop the Paragon, and then we can play Fury, right? We can play Fury now to trigger... to get the Chaplain down to 2, and then that means that Stern is a guarantee. Should be, yeah, so Stern is a guarantee to kill that now. Which is a prayer. So not only did it do 2 to 3, but it does 4, so that's actually probably technically much better than if it had just attacked for 6. So you see the synergy building there with this card. Really, really nice. And obviously, that Inspired Retribution, Death from Above, both sitting in his hand, not being able to touch Stern. Obviously, he is going to use it there on the Warsuit. Now, we've already used Rite of Restoration, but if we hadn't, that would have been obviously nice on the Warsuit here to bring that back. But we did get Aeldari for 3, so I'll take that. I'll take that. Now, he does pop his Humanity Shield, so we can't touch Calgar this turn, but we were well in control of that game. Okay, so there we have it, guys. So coming on to the deck. So here is the deck, as I say. There are some things that I am still umming and ahhing about. I think I'm pretty sold on Celestian now, finally, though, being the 3-drop that I want in this deck. I've agonized and gone round and round about that, and I'm happy that Rite of Restoration's been fixed. We can now play that, and I think that things like Stern now with the camouflage and the synergy with the Paragon and stuff, I'm actually pretty happy with this deck. It's definitely one that I still think could do with a little bit more refining, but I do think that this is a deck that you could climb into the top 50 with. It's not tier 1. It's definitely not tier 1 at all. I'm not claiming it is, in case that wasn't obvious. I'm not even saying it's better than Morven, but it's getting there now. It really is getting there. And the only thing, one of the few things I kind of consider is, do I want a 2nd Warsuit? But I think that's probably too much. As I said, I really like Dogmaters, but I just think Stern has better synergy in this deck. And the big one really is the 4-drop Legendary. So I do think that if you're umming and ahhing about anything, it probably should be around the 4-drops, because we do have the Dialogus, which is quite good in this deck. It has some pretty good synergy, and even the Hospitaller is not bad. It's a proactive 4-drop, and then with some of the bigger units later, it can help you heal and do some good stuff. But I'm kind of happy with where I've got with the 4-drops. The one that's really hurting me is not having Hallowed Martyrs, and I think it is worth potentially dropping either 1 Cleansing Flames or 1 Retributor and putting the Hallowed Martyrs back in. But that's probably something I'm going to further test. But honestly, guys, outside of that, I'm actually really pretty happy with this deck. Let me know in the comments what you think. Go ahead and hit the like button if you've enjoyed this video. And yeah, I will be bringing you a follow-up. There'll be more Erika decks to come for sure. But let me know what you want to see. And until next time, take care, guys. I'll see you soon.